It's Monday, May 4th, 2020, and the time is 7:01 p.m. We're in regular session tonight, and we're participating by Zoom, obviously. We also have a link that's on our city website under our council meeting agenda that if you would like to join us on that Zoom chat, you may do so. Our first item of business is establishing a quorum, and all members of council are present. Next item of business is disposition of the minutes for the regular session held on April 20 and the special session held on April 27th, 2020. If I could have a motion for approving these minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Okay, the minutes have been approved. Next item of business is communications, and I would like to let people know that we did receive a communication from our Director of Public Works, Robert Hetty, and he is suggesting that we postpone the annual street tour, which is going to take place virtually this year. So we will be setting up a date soon for the new one and announcing that to the public when we have that date established. So thanks for your patience on that. Do we have communications? Yes. Councilmember Fall, then Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you. I know that in the next few days and weeks, we're going to be reopening a lot more, and there's been a lot of controversy about people wearing masks, and Governor DeWine has said that it should be the people who are the workers who wear masks. And I would ask people in Athens to show that you care about all these essential workers and wear a mask, because a mask shows that you care about somebody, you care about the community, and you care about other people's lives. And so you may not be required to wear one, but I'd really love it if people would wear masks when they were out. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. I would just like to, this is our first meeting since Earth Day, and I would just like to thank the mayor for his proclamation recognizing Earth Day. And this thanks comes from the Ohio University Office of Sustainability, which he recognized in the proclamation, as well as from the Environment and Sustainability Commission. And I'll just read one of his whereases, which is, whereas Athens joins the Ohio University Office of Sustainability to celebrate Earth Day via virtual Earth Month activities to include recognizing the 50th anniversary of Earth Day on April 22nd with the announcement of our Sustainability Awards. And I just wanted to say that we did have our first virtual Earth Month this year, and it was a bit different than the celebrations we're usually able to hold. But thanks to a few students in the Office of Sustainability, we pulled off a great month, and I just wanted to thank the mayor for the proclamation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
And are there any other communications from other council members? If not, we'll move on to reports and communications from other elected officials. Law Director Eliason.
No report.
Okay. Mayor Patterson.
The only thing I have to report, President Isley, is that during my safety meeting this morning, Captain Harvey reported out that there were well over 100 calls for service over this past weekend. As everyone is aware, we had a large influx of individuals to move out of their off-campus rentals. But I should share that number is roughly half, if not less than half, of what we typically see in an over any move-out weekend. The police department was working very hard over the weekend with move-out, as was the code enforcement in identifying things. HRC, have to give a lot of credit with them getting out on Sunday to empty what was, in my words, a massive amount of refuse that was near the dumpsters that we deployed this year, which was way more than we have done in the past. So I give a thank you to AHRC. The other thing I want to mention to council is that I will continue to give testimony on Capitol Hill when it comes to the 2020 census. I had a meeting last week, and we'll be having another one tomorrow and hopefully on Thursday as well to speak to different committees on Capitol Hill to see if there's ways that we could see some relief with our significant undercounts as it exists now within mostly our high density student precincts. Not to say that the rest of the precincts need to step it up a little bit. I would say that they do as well. We certainly need everyone to be enumerated. You can do it online, you can do it via mail, you can do it over the phone, or you can always wait for an enumerator to come to your door, but I don't suspect that happening till sometime late summer or early fall with door-to-door enumeration. So please make sure that you're getting counted. Some of the things that we are looking at is we are trying to see if there's a way in which Congress would do a set aside for any level of funding to help offset the costs if a city were to appeal an enumeration with solid evidence to show that those numbers are lower than they were in 2010. You have to be very thorough as to how you go about doing that. A colleague of mine in Ames, Iowa, council member Gloria Betcher, indicated, she's also the chair of the National League of Cities University Communities Council, that in 2010 they did appeal, but it cost them a rather large sum of money to do so. We're also looking at possibly convincing Congress to look at some other ways that for college towns, undercounting is happening. So at least doing my job to represent Athens County, Athens, the city of Athens, and Ohio University, us as a community, a college community, to see if we can get a strong count and to get some relief if we don't get that because of COVID-19.
Thanks.
That's all I have.
And thanks for your work on that. I will now move on to ordinances for third reading. The first one is 5220, and this is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a grant agreement with the Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, known as NOPEC, in order to accept NOPEC energized community NEC grants. And this is introduced by all members of council. And this is the grant, I believe, which is making, proposing improvements to some of the solar lighting on the Far East side. And so if we're successful with this grant. Is there someone who would like to make a motion and second for approval of this? Okay, it looks like Councilmember Claude Felter moved and Councilmember Fall seconded. Okay. Any comments before voting? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 5420 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to advertise and accept bids where necessary for construction and construction engineering of the Stinson Avenue improvements. This is project number 315 and is introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Nisley. I'd just like to make sure that the council and the public knows that I introduced this ordinance as vice chair of the Transportation Committee. Chair Peter Kotsis recuses himself from this project discussion. This is what we've been talking about for quite some time, and this ordinance itself allows the Service Safety Director to accept the bids for the construction of the Stinson Avenue Improvements Project, as President Nisley outlined. This project number is 315, and there's a number of additional ordinances tonight that we will discuss later. But this is the first step in this process to get the Stinson Avenue corridor, the process started. Thank you, President Nisley.
Okay, so you've moved to have that approved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. And we do have one abstention. Councilmember
Right here.
Kotz.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. We now have ordinances for second reading. Ordinance 5620 is an ordinance to ensure local match funds for the Mobility Manager Grant, introduced by Councilmember Kotz. Okay, and if no comments, then we'll move on to Ordinance 5720. This is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into a water agreement with the LEAX Regional Water District to release upon annexation certain property within their service area to the City of Athens, and is introduced by Councilmember Fall. Okay, and if no comments, then we'll move on to the next two ordinances, 6020. And I might say that for these next two ordinances, 60 and 6120, I believe will have a brief comment by Councilmember Crowell. We also do have one citizen who said after the two of these, 60 and 61 are read, that she would like a moment to offer some comments to City Council members as well. So Ordinance 6020 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into a contract for municipal refuse recycling and composting, introduced by all members of council. Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. We have had a robust conversation, both within City Council and at our committee meetings, as well as with the public via email and via astute comments during our public Zoom meetings. And I would welcome further participation by the public. As I've said a number of times, it's wonderful to have the participation and to have people share their feelings on issues in front of council. This is the second reading, and the city continues to discuss the way forward. So we will be leaving this on the table for tonight and continuing to discuss next week at committee meeting. And I would encourage the public to continue to participate. Thank you, President Isley.
Okay. All right. And if no other comments, I'll move on to the next ordinance, which is Ordinance 6120. This is an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title I, General Provisions, Chapter 1.03, Code Fees Established, Solid Waste, Recycling, and Composting Rates, introduced by all members of council. Okay. And are there any comments from council members at this point, or yes, Councilmember Crowell, yes.
Thank you, President Isley. And this ordinance is the specific ordinance that we've been spending most of our time discussing. And this, of course, is the ordinance which will determine the new fees for the City of Athens. As we have discussed, the contract price has gone up by the proposed service provider. And in order to meet that contract price and to have enough money in our garbage fund to pay for that and additional services, we need to raise the fees. Some of the questions that we have been discussing is whether to add the composting service fee to the ordinance. And we are still gathering information from the city, as well as discussing with citizens the appropriateness of that fee increase, specifically to composting. The general fees the fees for recycling and solid waste service curbside are going to have to be increased. The question is whether that is additionally increased by the composting fee. And we've heard a lot from citizens, and we completely understand that the current time makes additional increases very difficult. So we are taking those comments very seriously and continuing to discuss the way forward. Thank you, President Isley. I believe we have a citizen to comment.
I believe we do. Yes. Yes. And Scott, do we have, is Jan available? There she is. Okay.
Hear me?
Okay, so yes, we can hear you, Jan, and
Okay, thank you.
okay, and if you can just We can't see you, but that's okay.
That's just fine. You don't want to.
But if you would also announce your address, and then that way we have it for the record. And then you've got 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, Council. I'm Jan Hodson, president of the Far East Side Neighborhood Association. I live at 45 Graham Drive. Last week, the FENA Executive Committee unanimously passed the following statement regarding the 2 waste ordinances before you tonight. If passed, the city will be obligated to a 3-year contract with the Athens Hocking Recycling Center for refuse, recycling, and composting with a substantial increase in rates. Households putting out 1 can of trash each week will see a 60% increase in their monthly bill. Households putting out 2 cans will see an increase of 71%. The cost to the residents of the city of adding composting will be $139,000 per year and is based on the optimistic assumption that 1,500 of the current 3,500 resident trash customers will use the composting service. Currently, there are only 95 households paying to use curbside composting, and there were just 300 in the free pilot program. We are now facing the devastating economic effects of a pandemic, which have caused many Athens residents to lose their jobs and their income. Just this past week, Ohio University terminated and furloughed hundreds of employees and reduced the hours of many others. In the coming months, additional residents will likely face layoffs and furloughs. Some small businesses will not survive. Many residents, including senior citizens, the disabled, and those on fixed incomes, are relying on food pantries to feed their families. Therefore, we urge council to take the following actions. Number 1, enter into further negotiations with the Athens Hocking Recycling Center with the goal of extending the current contract for 6 months to a year. AHRC should do this in good faith, given the overwhelming support they received from Athens citizens when they were outbid a year ago. Number 2, amend the proposed ordinances to eliminate the addition of composting at this point. We do not dispute the science cited to support composting. In fact, many East Siders and residents of Athens currently compost in their yards and have been doing so for years. But this is not the time to add this additional cost to already stretched family budgets. Number 3, use the upcoming year to gather additional public comment and train and educate residents about the value of composting with the intention of signing up the 1,500 residents needed to make the program viable. City of Athens neighborhood associations, Rural Action, the local extension service, and other environmental groups could be involved in this effort. We ask that you take these actions immediately for the economic welfare of our community and with an eye on the necessity of also protecting our environment. Thank you.
And thank you very much. Perfectly timed with a few seconds to spare.
I practiced.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, Jan, and we've made note of those recommendations from the Far East Side Neighborhood Association. We appreciate that. Okay. All right. We'll move on now to
Chris.
Yes, Councilman.
There's a request for a comment after Jan.
And I'm not. Is this the Joan Kronansky?
No, Alan Swank. Right above that, Alan Swank is asking to comment after Jan finishes.
Oh, I see. Okay, and that's fine. That he would have 3 minutes. Alan, if you're ready, if you can give us your address, so we'll have it for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Alan Swank. I live at 40 Townsend Place, and I am commenting as an individual. Jan alluded to one thing, and that was the contract with AHRC. In 2018, 2019, July 1 to June 30th, 2 years later, 2020 to 2021, that contract has gone up 56%. Now, I realize that the market for recyclables is not what it was years ago, but a 56% increase is quite a lot. I would respectfully ask council, as before signing any contract, that they take a closer look at this astronomical increase in a 2-year period. Again, from 2018 to 2019, that year, 2 years later to 2020, 2021, the cost of that contract, minus composting, not including composting, has gone up 56%. I can't think of anything in this country, in this town, in this county that has gone up that much. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alan, for joining us and for those comments. Okay. And let me make sure I turn my timer off so we don't get it dinging at us. Thank you. All right, now we'll move on. We do have one other comment that a citizen had written in opposition to the recycling and composting. But it looks like non-itemized billing, and I don't think that that's the case. I think we've clarified that some. So, yes, Councilmember Clodfelter.
I would just also like to remark that I've now received 25 comments on my city council email account in favor of expanding the curbside composting program.
Okay, thanks very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to now our ordinances for first reading. And I will note that these ordinances, we owe in part the thanks of Robert Hetty, who's Director of Public Works, also Lisa Eliason, our Law Director, and Debbie Walker, our Clerk of Council, who have worked tirelessly over the past few days to make sure that these ordinances are in the correct wording so that we can move forward the other component pieces of Stinson Avenue. I will share with you that of these 4 ordinances, you know that we passed the first one for a third reading tonight, and that was to go ahead and authorize the Service Safety Director to advertise and accept bids. These other 4 component pieces, 3 of them will need to be suspended tonight. The reason for that being, as Mr. Hetty had explained, I know in committee meeting, and I think also in a mayor auditor meeting, that we have the opportunity for ODOT small city grant, which is $2.126 million, that we need to, in order to be able to accept this, we need to move forward with our city contracts and have them, the contract be awarded for Stinson Avenue by June 10th. So the timing is very tight on these 4 that are coming up next. The first one is 6220. And this is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to submit an application and enter into an agreement for a state infrastructure bank, SIB loan, for the Stinson Avenue Improvements Project number 315, and designating a dedicated repayment source for the loan. This is introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Nisley. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for 06220.
Second.
Thank you. I'd like to suspend the rules as President Nisley indicated. The ordinance needs to be passed 30 days prior to the June 10th date by which we need to have this in the system in order to be able to get the $2.165 million, which I think is clearly a huge part of this project and something that we should not miss out on. As President Nisley indicated, 6220 is the application for the loan from the SIB bank, and this would be in the amount of $5,010,000. And as President Nisley indicated, the loan repayment will come from the Street Rehabilitation Fund 572. Thank you, President Nisley.
Okay, and I might also add that this is, so we have a motion and second to suspend first. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then opposed, nay. The rules have been suspended, Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve 06220.
Oh, we had a second from Councilmember Clodfelter. Yep, so I couldn't hear you, but I saw your hand go up. Okay. All right. So we have a motion and second for approval of this award. And I might note that the first with this loan. It's a 3% interest loan, no interest the first year, first payment not due for 30 months. So some of the details on that.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
If we pay it off early, is there a penalty?
I'm not sure of the details on this particular one. I know the one for some of our other things like the sewer
Right.
water treatment plant, we did have that. We will be able to reduce the size of the loan. I do know that if we would be able to obtain some other grants. So that much I do know. But we can clarify the details if there's a penalty for early payout. Mayor Patterson, yes.
There would be, if you notice, Director Hetty in your chat box indicated that within the first 3 years, yes, there would be a penalty. After that, no.
Okay, great. That's good. Oh, thank you.
I don't think we have to worry about it.
Okay.
Thank you, President Isley. I also wanted to point out, and as you did, which I should have pointed out, that this is for those concerned about the COVID-19 crisis that we are currently in. This loan does provide, as President Isley indicated, 12 months of interest-free financing, and the first payment is not due 30 months after closing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and second now for approval of 6220. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. And we have one abstention.
One
Is that
abstention.
correct?
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. 6320 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into contract for construction and construction engineering of the Stinson Avenue Improvements Project number 315, introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for 06320 for to necessitate the 30 days that we need to have this completed in order to get the loan from the Ohio Department of Transportation. Thank you.
Okay, we have a second from Councilmember Clodfelter. So we have a motion and second for suspending the rules. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the rules have been suspended, Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. Because this is a big project, I'm going to go ahead and read most of this ordinance. Again, Stinson Avenue is one of our arteries in the city of Athens, and it has been worked on in quite some time. And so this ordinance lays out the argument for this work. Whereas Stinson Avenue is a primary arterial street constructed circa 1970 that carries over 7,000 cars per day, and the roadway and underground utilities are at the end of their useful life and beginning to fail. And whereas the Stinson Avenue State Street intersection has experienced 19 vehicle crashes, 3 crashes involving pedestrians in the past 5 years, and whereas an improvement project has been developed to improve the street, including full-depth pavement reconstruction, pedestrian facility upgrades, new traffic signals, lighting improvements, landscaping, water and sewer upgrades along the 0.43 miles of Stinson Avenue from East State Street to North 1804 Way, which is the roundabout. Whereas the city has been awarded an Ohio Small Cities Grant in the amount of $2,126,815, which must be awarded to a contractor by June 10th, 2020, to guarantee award of the grant funds. And whereas the city of Athens is expected to be awarded an Ohio Public Works grant in the amount of $400,000 and a 0% loan in the amount of $400,000 after July 1st, 2020, pending passage of the State of Ohio Capital Spending Bill. And whereas the city of Athens is expected to be awarded Ohio Department of Transportation safety funds in the amount of $500,000 for the Stinson Avenue State Street intersection. So be it ordained by the council that we authorize the Service Safety Director to enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder for the construction and enter into an agreement for the construction engineering services for this project, contingent upon award of the State Infrastructure Bank loan. The appropriation ordinance 014019 is hereby amended by appropriating from the unappropriated balance the following sums: $25,000 to State Highway Fund 225, transaction code 500, $300,000 to Street Rehabilitation Fund 572, transaction code 500, and increasing the total appropriations by said amount. Section 3, the Service Safety Director is hereby authorized to expend up to $19,019 from the following funds: $25,000 from State Highway Fund 225, transaction code 500, $4,367,204 from Street Rehabilitation Fund 572, transaction code 500, $2,626,815 from ODOT Small Cities Fund 589, and $800,000 from Issue 2 Fund 590, transaction code 500. Thank you, President Isley.
Okay, thank you. And
I guess I'd like to make a motion to approve.
okay, good. And I wanted to offer two other comments. One, if all of these grants that are listed here are not awarded, that we may have to amend, as we sometimes do during our projects, amend the appropriation ordinance for monies coming out of the street fund. And then when I gave the acknowledgements of who has helped get all of this moving forward too, I neglected Councilmember Crowell's been introducing all of these. So Councilmember Crowell, thank you for all the work on this. And also Auditor Hecht, who has been reviewing these items, and the other council members, Reisner and Smedley, who have participated in the mayor auditor meeting. So it's the team approach. Yes, Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you. I'd also like to just note that Director Hetty has done all the estimates for the construction, assuming that we don't receive all of those pending grants. So the State Infrastructure Bank loan for $5,010,000 covers all the construction. So if we won't need additional monies, if we receive those grants, then the loan amount, the necessary to borrow, is reduced.
Okay, good. All right, so we have, at this point, we have the motion. Wait a minute, you made the motion, but we do need a second now for approval of 6320. Okay, looks like Councilmember Fall or Grace, either one. Okay, thank you. And any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. And abstentions, 1. Thank you.
Right here. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Ordinance 6420 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into contracts for the relocation of utilities as part of the Stinson Avenue project, improvements project, number 315. And this is introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. Yet again, the Stinson Avenue project, this ordinance covers a very important part of the project, which is the city's determination that the best place for the utilities are underground, both to improve accessibility of both the roadway and especially for pedestrians and users of alternate transportation. And also for safety, for the access by our fire department and our safety personnel. So I will read portions of this too. First of all, let me make a motion to suspend the rule for 064.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Councilmember Clodfelter, seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Okay, the rules have been suspended, Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you. I guess I'll say now I'd like to make a motion to approve 06420.
Second.
Okay. A second by Councilmember Reisner. Okay, we have the motion and second. Any comments? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And abstentions, 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Ordinance 60, the motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 6520 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to submit an application and enter into an Ohio Public Works Commission OPWC grant and loan agreement for the Stinson Avenue Improvements Project number 315 and designating a dedicated repayment source for the loan. This is introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Nisley. And I'll go ahead and read this ordinance. Whereas the City of Athens would like to apply for a 0% loan from the Ohio Public Works Commission, OPWC, for the proposed Stinson Avenue Complete Street project. Be it ordained by the Council of the City of Athens, Ohio. Section 1, the Service Safety Director is hereby authorized to accept a grant in the amount of $400,000 and to submit an application and enter into an Ohio Public Works Commission grant and loan fund agreement in the amount of $400,000 for the Stinson Avenue Improvements Project number 315. Section 2, the dedicated source of the loan repayment will be the Street Rehabilitation Fund 572. Thank you, President Nisley.
Okay, thank you. And this is the one that we anticipate being awarded after July 1, I believe, from the state capital budget. Okay. Yes, Mayor Patterson, did you have a comment? Okay, we're good. All right, that's been read for the first time. We may need to suspend on the second reading on that, I believe is what Clerk of Council told us. We now have announcements and other business. We will be having committee meetings next week. And likely the Committee of the Whole, as mentioned earlier, for further discussion of updates on the AHRC contract and the code rates that are affiliated with that. And if other committees will be needing to meet, if you could let Debbie Walker, our Clerk of Council, know. Peter, Councilmember Katsas, do you have a committee?
We will have transportation, yes.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Crowell?
Thank you. I'd also like to make an announcement that the Auditor and Mayor meeting will take place tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock. And we will also be discussing the AHRC composting issue at that meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? All right. We also have a moment, an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items that have not been on the agenda, but I don't see that there is anybody in the Zoom webinar chat room that has been queued up. So if that's the case, then we could have a motion to adjourn. Councilmember Clodfelter is making a motion to adjourn, and Councilmember Fall seconding. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Opposed, nay? None. All right. We are adjourned at 7:39 p.m. and we'll see you all.
Close to